coming. We wanted to update you tonight to let you know that the 5 members of the board who are sitting here, Karen, why don't you wave? Karen McGrath is our secretary, and Meredith Harris is our co-vice president, and Jonathan Small is another co-vice president, and Carla Mullen is our finance chief, and I'm the president, Sue Dangle. So we wanted to start the meeting and just tell you that we've decided that we're going to be meeting every week, the 5 of us, and we have been meeting over the last 4 weeks to really kind of hone where we want to go, what our mission is, and come up with a way of gaining some more volunteer participation. So we wanted to be clear on what we need and where we're going. So we've been doing that, and as we present to you tonight on the agenda, some of the things that we've come about in our discussions, we wanted to ask you all to be thinking about how you might be able to contribute yourselves to our cause, whether you like to do things on the computer, or you like to talk to people, or do research, or go to meetings, or pound the pavement, or go out on the lake and take samples, or look at runoff. We're looking for everybody. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And what we're going to do, it's a small group. So we were going to have people put questions in the chat. If that's okay with you, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, with this size, I think we could probably entertain questions. But we want to try to get this done in an hour, and we have a lot to say. So I'm going to move right on to a little bit of housekeeping, in that I need a motion to approve our minutes of our last meeting, September 22nd, or 2. I guess that was 2 ago.
So moved.
Approved, yes.
A second, and everybody approves?
Yes.
Second.
Yep.
Okay. And then just quickly in old business, as I'm sure it's not news to anyone sitting here, we were victorious in passing Article 16 to fund our pond study. And we have thanks to Jonathan, his wife Jane, Meredith Harris, Carla Mullen, Heather Fisher, Karen McGrath, Karen Stratton, me, Arden Russell Cadron, Mary Wagan, Stephen Pam Van Drimlin, for helping us to get all those signs out, posted, and to show up at the meeting, the town meeting, to vote for that. So hooray and thank you. Thanks very much. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, who's going to go through an updated charter. Back in, I believe, July, we posted a charter that was going to be our guiding principles and what was going to lead this group. And we feel that we need to update it because we've done a few of the things that were on there. So Jonathan, take it away.
Thank you. Karen, you're going to post that, right? There
Yep,
we go.
it's up there.
Great, thank you. So it's great to see everybody. I was just reflecting that I didn't know any of the people on this call, but maybe 1 or 2 back in June. And here it is, only 5 or 6 months later, and how much we've done and how far we've come, and how much more we have to do. So as Sue was saying, we sort of took a step back and we're thinking about the original charter, and already in that short amount of time, we felt the need to sort of refresh it a little bit and think about what is our urgent agenda. What is it composed of? What are the goals and what are the activities that we are going to be involved in? It's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest with you. There's, I believe, 7 or 8 or 9 items on this list. But we need to figure out how to knock them off and how to prioritize and how to be strategic, what gets us the biggest bang for the buck. The first item is recruit members, build awareness, and motivate action. And I kind of feel like we have some more work to do on this. Maybe this is the elephant in the room, but I was hoping for more like 50 people on this call instead of what looks like about 15. So you know, we've been trying our best to get people engaged, involved, and somehow we just are not getting the momentum that we were hoping to get at this point. So we're looking to have some fresh ideas of how we might go about doing that. Maybe it's the time of year, maybe it's who knows what. We've got lots of theories, but we've got to do more to get more people involved and engaged, because the five of us can't do this all ourselves. We need the community to really rally around this. Number two is now that the diagnostic study has been approved for funding in Mashpee, we need to really keep pushing it forward to make sure it happens in a timely manner, because everything sort of hinges on that in terms of what are the right solutions to be put forward to solve what problems exist. Number three is ensure the expedient sewer conversion in areas close to the town. We're thrilled that the town of Mashpee has changed its prioritization, is now going to be implementing its sewer conversion plan in the pond regions as a high priority. We need to make sure that that continues to be an urgent agenda, and we need to encourage Sandwich to get on the same path towards an urgent implementation that's coordinated with the town of Mashpee. Number four has to do with seeking solutions to reduce stormwater runoff into the pond. We have strong evidence to believe that this is a major contributor to the increase in nutrients. And we need to figure out where are the areas around the pond. We know of several of them, but we need to identify where are the areas of greatest concern and develop solutions to reduce that runoff. Number five has to do with the large parcels of undeveloped lake on the land. We need some folks to sort of zoom in and figure out where those are, who owns them, and engage with other groups to keep a watchful eye on those properties to ensure that they remain undeveloped. Number six is this big question mark around the bog. We're still not quite sure exactly to what extent the bog is contributing to the problems. But while we await the results of the diagnostic study, we think there are some steps we can take to position ourselves for some decisive action around the bog once we have some answers. Number seven is to establish partnerships with other aligned organizations. Karen, maybe you can slide it down a little bit here. Karen, can you slide this slide down? Thank you. So obviously there are many organizations on the Cape that are doing similar work, and the more the merrier we can align with, the more powerful and potent our effort will be. And the last is to engage our elected officials in town, state, and federal governments to support our efforts. We think that some of the issues that affect the pond will be under state jurisdictions, such as the boat ramp, for example. So we will ultimately need to advocate with our representatives to get behind our efforts. So that's our charter at this point, or at least our call to action. And as I said at the top, it's pretty daunting, but I think we're able to prioritize and focus our energies and our resources where we can get the biggest bang for the buck at the right time. So that's where we're at.
Do you want to pause for a minute and see if there are any gut reactions to the people who have never seen this before? The five of us have seen it very up close. But any comments?
I have a question about the runoff piece. Isn't that the Conservation Committee's job, not our job, to determine properties that have too much runoff? And isn't that ultimately their job to identify it and also enforce something, change?
The Conservation Commission at this time, at least in Mashpee, does not have, the wetlands regulations do not have any reference to single family homes and stormwater. There are things that they do require, since I'm under construction now, I said they require things like dry wells for all of your gutters. so that all that water is, re-injected back into the ground, which is a good thing. But if you have an active swale, they would have to find it. But it's very hard. Every property, just about, I'm going to say 95% of the properties on the lake contribute to stormwater because they're all on slopes. And unless you have a point source, something coming, like right now I'm dealing with my driveway. And so I can channel that into a dry well, a catch basin, and then go into the dry well so that it goes back into the ground. But a slope that you have, looking at some of the higher ones, higher slopes, what are you going to do? You have vegetation, hopefully, and then, the water just runs down. So you look at things like areas where people have, paved areas going right into the lake. Some people do, you go around the lake, and there are some single family properties that have, a driveway down or even a paved area down, and walkways. And I don't know if I was fortunate or what, but Karen Stratton and I walked Cove Road during that heavy rainstorm. I think it was last week, Karen. Was that last week?
Yeah, it was on Friday.
During that intense rain, we walked up and down Cove Road. Karen took footage. That is a huge problem. That gets stormwater from so many properties for a quarter of a mile, at least. And it all goes down a swale, which is on Karen's property, and it's not her stormwater. And those are all, and the roads are private property. They're private roads. And so, what you can say is that because it's a swale, it's violating stormwater management regulations. And once you have something that's a swale, violating that, we can possibly get the Conservation Commission, which in this case would be Mashpee, because they regulate that water source. And I mean, that part of the pond. And what you would hope for, the town's not going to do anything. It's private property. The town is not going to do anything. It is, trying to get catch basins and a betterment put to each private property owner. That's really how that would work, that I can see for that situation.
Can you just define a swale?
Sure. A swale is something that you see them on your property, you see them around. It's a swale is a piece of gorge. I'm going to say it's a gorge in a property where you have runoff, and sometimes they're man-made and sometimes they're made because of the water. The water creates its own little drainage river. Okay, a tiny little river, and sometimes they're made on a property. People, they push the water down the swale, so it goes down the side of the property and into the lake, which is understandable. And for the situation on Karen's property, that's basically what they had to do, because there was just such a large amount of water from so many properties pouring down.
Well, it's the low point on the road.
Right, it's the low point in the road, and it's in the Wakeby side, which is the worst side, but it's right there at the Narrows, so it does flow sort of quickly into the Mashpee side of the pond. That requires some discussion. Dave, you're on this call, I believe. Sampson, I see his picture.
Yes.
Dave?
Yep, I'm here.
That requires a lot of coordination. And are you going to agree with me that the town's not going to do anything because it's a private road?
I would actually disagree with you.
Oh, they will do something.
So the town of Sandwich, it was 3 years ago now, I believe, took the first steps towards developing the wastewater infrastructure fund, and funds that are allocated there, which are the result of a percentage surcharge on real estate taxes in the town of Sandwich can be used to mitigate stormwater runoff issues such as that. So that actually is on the town's radar to mitigate. I can't tell you the timeline and when it happens, but chances are better than not that the town will fund mitigating that stormwater issue. There's my opinion, and I'm personally impacted by this as well. The issue is larger than just that, but the town is certainly going to pick up the cost of some component of it. There's no question about that. That's my belief at this time.
Yeah, so Dave, I did in my research kind of stumble upon that fund. I couldn't find, you know, I couldn't get to kind of what the size of that fund is. Is that a matter of public interest?
It's everything is a public record.
Yeah.
And it is 2% surcharge on your real estate tax bill. So if you look at your real estate tax bill, every real estate tax bill in town has a 2% surcharge for that fund. And I can't tell you the numbers off the top of my head, but there's enough money there to do the things that need to be done over time, and that's how the fund was laid
that's
out.
good. And yeah, certainly I understand how much I'm paying my real estate tax bills every year from that. I was trying to figure out kind of what the balance of the pot is.
Well, it's only been in effect.
That's good. I
maybe,
found that, and I'm glad you're corroborating that information.
Yeah, so it's only been they've been collecting those taxes, I think, since I think it started in fiscal 21. So July 1st, fiscal year 21, which we took July 1st, 2020. I think that was when the tax started being collected. I mean, I have all sorts of tables and charts. I just don't have them available about what the estimated revenues are.
Together. Yeah,
but they're
They're
significant.
I'm gonna just interrupt. Unfortunately, we've got pages of things to keep going. But this is a great example of the birth of the Stormwater Committee, which is Linda Smith and Karen Stratton, who have both stepped forward to help out. But this kind of discussion and research into what the problems are and what can be done and where funding might be available is exactly what we need. And we're going to need it on a number of other issues, but I think this was a perfect example to show what we're talking about in what we're going to be needing for volunteer work. So thank you.
Yeah, Dave and Karen, I'll set something up with you separately and we can discuss that, and anybody else who wants to join that discussion.
Okay, can I also add something to the discussion that I was doing a little project and found out that with the new money that's coming through the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA, I don't know how many of you saw the article in the the Cape Cod Times that said that there will be opportunities for people to talk about where the funding priorities should be. Barnstable County is getting $41 million new dollars. And if you look at two things, one is the APCC report on the state of the waters of 2020. So go to the APCC website and look at their report on state of the waters, because they do cover stormwater and they talk about some of the issues that occur and how to solve them. But the reason why I'm bringing up the American Rescue Plan Act is that the county will be looking for people who will be talking about private citizens and organizations to set the funding priorities for this $41 million coming into the county. And the project that we're talking about in terms of stormwater mitigation and wastewater mitigation from all different levels would be coming from us, individuals and small groups. So just so that you're aware of this, they're going to start taking applications for funding in February, but they're going to be looking for grassroots input for how the funding should be spent. And I think our voice about stormwater mitigation should be there. So the committee can play an important part, both in expanding their role, but also in looking at what the possibilities are for funding, not as individuals or small groups, but perhaps in I don't want to say force, but pushing our legislative people and town officials to help us to do this better.
Meredith, what is it called?
It's called the American Rescue Plan Act. It's the new infrastructure bill that was just signed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll put together a little blurb so that we can put it on our website, because they will be calling for people to talk to them. So it might just mean a conversation, or it might be greater involvement, but it comes along with what
Right.
Jonathan was saying about volunteers. And it also talks about our charter with alliances and being able to figure out how we can solve some of the problems. And the stormwater is a big one.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to move on from the charter because it will come back up throughout our discussion, and back to our new business. Jonathan's going to give you a little update on his visit to the Falmouth Pond Alliances meeting.
Well, I won't spend more than just a second on this, but I attended a meeting of a group called the Falmouth Stewards of Falmouth Waterways or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. And my major takeaway that I just wanted to share with this group is that we are not alone. I feel like we've seen, like we're out in outer space looking for aliens. There are plenty of other lakes out there and ponds out there right in our neighborhood that have the exact same problems that we have. They were talking about the same exact issues over in Falmouth that we are having in Mashpee, and looking at similar solutions. And it was just sort of stunning to sort of see how everything was. Everyone was sort of feeling like this is a new problem, and it's not, that it's all around us. So I just wanted to share that reflection about that meeting. There wasn't anything specific more than that I wanted to bring out and take our time with tonight.
Great, thank you.
Sue, I just want to point out, on top of what Jonathan said, that again, these are the kinds of things we're trying to educate our group and ourselves, and attending these meetings we keep learning so much by doing this. So Jonathan was able to bring that back to our group. And again, we're looking for people to attend all these kinds of meetings.
Right, I think they even detailed what their committees were when we were talking about building our committees and trying to see if it made sense that we were on the right path. And it seems like we are on a similar path. So that was reassuring. And we put together an alliance list as well that I think Meredith will talk about later, on other groups that we could go see. I'm tasked with giving everybody an update on the Mashpee Roundtable meeting. I know that some of you have had the opportunity to watch it. It is, it's an hour and a half, but it is, I was clinging to every word and learning about our aggressive, from a Mashpee standpoint, our aggressive pivot to sewer the lakes and ponds in the second phase of Mashpee's wastewater plant. And they brought together the Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Board of Health, the Mashpee Water District. I might be forgetting somebody else, but they were all, and Ashley Fisher was there to give an update on the ponds. But I think we all walked away very deflated in a way that while this is excellent news, there's just still a lot of bad news out there about the ponds. Our situation with Mashpee and Wakeby is really quite dire. They are classifying Wakeby now as eutrophic, which is really the most challenging of all the classifications you can have as a pond. And Mashpee is trending that way. I guess the only good news I heard was that we're 4th and 5th out of the 5 ponds in Mashpee. So the rest of the ponds are more shallow and not doing as well as we are.
Yeah, and then that's kind of, not great given the fact that the others are so bad.
This is true. And then we also learned about how much money it's going to take, and it's going to take a lot of money. So I think all of those funds, they were even discussing the infrastructure fund that Meredith was referring to, talking about finding low interest loans to people in homes who are going to need to convert to the sewer. So there's a lot of talk about money. And they're coming back on December 13th. All of those groups are coming back together to highlight their goals of what they're going to be doing specifically with regard to cleaning the water. There was some good news from the Mashpee Drinking Water District, and they talked a lot about the thing that came up 2 weeks ago, the PFAS found in Mashpee Wakeby. And he talked about how they have been sampling and testing for PFAS for a very long time, and was very clear that the drinking water in Mashpee is safe. So that was a good thing. And I think we've already talked about working with the town of Sandwich to, I think the glaring thing to us on Wakeby Pond from that presentation was that Wakeby was not colored in phase 2 of Mashpee's plan, because they're hoping that Sandwich will help out with that. So we do want to continue to work with Sandwich to find out what their plans are there. So I am putting out that December 13th date to see if you can tune in or show up, just to see where they're headed. I think it was a very, very good meeting for the community, and it resulted in, I think, virtually most of the Mashpee enterprise was devoted to things that came out of that meeting this week. Okay, and reaching out to our senators and congressmen, like Meredith pointed out as well. That's another thing that we are going to be focusing on. Rolling right along, I'm going to talk to you about donations. We're pleased to say that our donation button, Karen might even demonstrate for you, on our website is functioning. And we've actually had a few donations. I'll wait for her to pull it up. But it is functioning. So anybody can, when they click on donate on our website, they will be able to just scroll down, and we have some classifications of simple amounts that people could do. And it has our disclosures of how we're going to use their donation, which is right now to cover operating costs. And then they can use their credit card to make this donation. We also list that they can, if they would prefer not to send a credit card, they can send a check directly to our PO box, which will be listed there as well. It's coming. It's coming. But here it is. So here's our payment, information, and it's pretty seamless. The money goes from there. A company that's performing these transfers for us holds the money for a couple of days and then sends it over to our checking account. So I'm going to save our update on donations for Carla, who will be coming up shortly. And I do know one thing. I think, Mark, you're here in the room. We were, is Mark still here? Yeah, there he is. You mentioned at one point that you have some legal background. This company that is doing this for us is looking for us to post our terms and conditions on these transactions, which for a 501c4, we're not completely sure what we need to put there. But they're not going to hold anything up. We just need to eventually get terms and conditions and a privacy policy and a refund policy. Basically, we aren't offering refunds because well, we're not, but they usually handle people who are checking out at a store. So I don't think we apply to a refund policy, but if anybody else has any experience on that, we would appreciate hearing from you. And I guess I'm still talking. I'm looking at the agenda. I'm next on the agenda to talk about our committees at a high level. The committees that we are forming are, I found she's going to put the, that's the committee reports. The committees we're forming are the one that I'm heading up is influence and advocacy. And it's, you know, it's really working, getting our relationships built with the towns and continuing to keep our mission forward. You know, this whole sewering thing that we're talking about that Mashpee is putting forth, it sounds great, but it has to go to town meeting in May and the town has to approve it. Again, I mean, we're thinking it's a done deal, but we need to make sure that we do similar things that we did with the pond study. This is a much bigger deal than the pond study. So we're going to need to be very active between here and the month of May to get the vote out to have this approved. We are going to be needing to work with all of the departments across the town, Board of Health, Natural Resources, planning boards. So I'm looking for folks to work hand in hand. And also Barbara Nichols is here. Our continued work with the Mashpee Wakeby Lake Management Committee in Mashpee, who will be tasked with a lot of the implementation of the actual pond study. And I'm pleased to say that Arden Russell Kedron and Michael Harris from Sandwich and Arden Russell from Mashpee have agreed to be the co-chairs of the pond study. So they're going to be attending meetings and amassing volunteers for us to keep that study going with gusto in support of the study and the Mashpee Wakeby Lake Management Committee. So I really need liaisons and I need people to go to meetings is what I'm going to need in this regard. Also people who might be adept at working and reaching out to our leaders in the Senate and our congressmen and our elected officials. I would appreciate those kind of folks. I can use people to even log into the meetings. You don't have to be present. All of them are streamed live. And to look up the agendas and see what's being discussed and see if we need to be there for a public comment, for example. So that's kind of my committee as far as that's concerned. At the same time, I have an organization committee, which is just to continue to hone our organization. And I'm going to need to be establishing bylaws with the executive board. And again, Mark, your name is continuously coming up with your expertise in some of the, I think you mentioned that you had experience working with 501c3s and 4s and just getting us high and tight on what our rules and bylaws need to be. So those are my two committees. And who's next?
Jonathan.
I think I am.
All right.
So I've been driving the communications activities with a big support from Karen McGrath, who really is crackerjack at a lot of these things. But you know, basically, we've been sending out newsletters and emails and trying to get people engaged and involved. And as I said up front when I was talking about the charter, I think recruitment continues to be one of our biggest challenges. And I would welcome any thoughts from the crowd here on what we are not quite getting right yet, because this, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as many of the people on this call are concerned, is a house of fire. But we are not yet getting the kind of response from the vast majority of people who live around the lake, let alone people who are in surrounding areas to get engaged. Maybe it just takes time. Maybe winter's here and no one's thinking about the lake. Maybe it's been too long since we've had the algae bloom. Maybe people are just busy and have lots of things to be involved in. But I would love to have any help or thoughts or creative ideas or innovative solutions to make what is attendance this evening of somewhere around 20 people, double, triple, quadruple so that by the time spring rolls around and we have our spring event that we've been chatting about to kick off the spring summer season, we can get 100 people at Ryder Beach for a community event, and the numbers of people who are donating and volunteering just skyrocket. So that's really where my head is at right now in terms of communications.
Please put any ideas, creative ideas in the chat if you want to do that. That would be awesome.
Hey, just at a high level, you guys, this is Evan. I mean, Jonathan, I think you guys have done an amazing job, and being involved with Susan daily with this pursuit has told me how hard you guys are working. And, I think we're in an off season right now, and people have turned their attentions to other things and their daily lives away from the Cape. And so I would encourage the 5 of you who worked so hard, don't be discouraged. I think this is only going to gain momentum. And I think as we build towards next summer, we will have 60, 70, 80, 90 people on calls like this. So it's just about being deliberate, being consistent, pushing and getting those extra yards and keep plowing ahead and not get discouraged, because you guys are doing a great job. And I know people are going to come along. And I think when we start to syndicate with other towns and really realize how big of a problem this is Cape-wide, more and more people are going to sign up and get involved.
Thanks, Evan. That really helps.
You bet. You bet.
Great. Thank you, Jonathan. Where do we go from here? I have too many papers. I need to look right here.
Great.
Alliances.
Meredith.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about alliances. We're all an alliance, and the important thing is that we're a big team, and the team is growing by leaps and bounds. And Evans, I loved what you had to say, because I really think that as people learn who we are and as we learn who they are, we are just growing exponentially. And if not, we're keeping our eyes and ears open. One of the things, and I'll talk about, so I went to the Wakeby, Mashpee Wakeby Lake Management Committee meeting, which Barbara chaired and did a great job of it. It was great that there were so many of us there. Karen was there, as was, let's see.
Was there, Arden,
yes, is another one. And yeah, so the things that we found out was that Ashley did the presentation of the RFP, but we also found out that it's stalled right now. So we need to find out how to put pressure on how to get this lake study RFP out of wherever it is and get it going so that the bids can be formed and the study actually takes place. But Ashley was asking for volunteers to help with the study come the spring and summer. But we also need to badger our state legislators. This is one of the other things they're asking about, helping to save some of the things that are going on at the state boat ramp. And that may be something that we can do by pushing our state legislators to do things about this in terms of boat washing and monitoring and taking care of the boat landing itself. It's important that we foster alliances between and among Sandwich and Mashpee, and also Joint Base Cape Cod, because these are where some of the wastewater plans are kind of being integrated together. And I think the important thing about the alliances is that, I'm not sure whether it was Jonathan or whether it was Ethan that said it, but Evan that said it, but the whole wastewater issue is something that all 15 towns on the Cape are going to be dealing with. There are 5 right now that are tapped into active plans for wastewater, but there are many other towns that are coming on board with the new money that's now available. So keeping our eyes and ears open about how to link with other people, link with other towns, come up with a plan and be forceful in finding out how to access the money that's going to be available is going to be important. There are other things that was suggested from the lake management meeting about advocating for road improvement and stormwater management. So stormwater management is a very big issue as far as we're concerned. So that's why another reason to link with the Mashpee Wakeby Lake Management Committee. Their goals are the same as ours in many different areas where we overlap. So looking at how we can link with other organizations and work with them, help them, they can help us. The other area I wanted to talk about was APCC. I just wanted to reiterate again, the Association for Preservation of Cape Cod has done a lot of work on the preservation of our water. And I just bring your attention to their report of 2020 on the state of the waters. They have suggestions of how to address all the things that we're concerned about in terms of water, whether it's wastewater or whether it's also stormwater. But it's something that we'll be able to start pulling together when we develop our communication, our messages that we'll be sharing with people about how they can help, whether it's from an individual basis as a homeowner, or whether it's as a visitor, or whether it's as a town, or however we're going to be able to work with each other. I also think that we need to give tribute to Mary Adams Olisak, who had been one of the prime leaders. She's the leader of the Mashpee Clean Waters. And she was one of the prime movers in getting the sewering started of phase 1, but has also been supportive of us as we've moved toward clean water in the ponds. And then one of the other groups that I linked up with, I was asked by the Environmental Oversight Committee to come to their meeting because they wanted to know about us. And I thought that was a very positive thing, that they're very involved in land conservation, open land acquisition. So as we talk about in our charter, keeping an eye on monitoring undeveloped land or land that's large tracts of land that we might want to keep an eye on. The Environmental Oversight Committee is one of the committees that does that. And being able to go to their meetings, being able to talk with the members of the committee is also another way of fostering one of our goals. So other than just again reiterating that there's new money that's going to be available for wastewater control, stormwater control, and we have an opportunity to have a voice in how that money is going to be spent. Is $40 million into Barnstable County alone. So, but you think, if you think about it, Barnstable County is 15 towns. So we really want to kind of keep focusing on Mashpee and Sandwich coming together to address our water issues between and among the two towns, particularly around our pond. But it's, you can see how broad it is by our linking with these other organizations. So that's all I have to say, folks.
Thank
So
you.
another committee that we are trying to pull together, and again, Linda Smith has taken the lead and Karen Stratton is working with her, is on research and education. And they have been like trying to learn all that they can about the stormwater runoff. We already had that bit of information about that this evening. And we are really looking to, you know, again, there's so much we feel like we don't know that we want to learn more about the soaring, you know, and things that can be done, pollutants, native species, invasive plants. So we are looking for people who are interested in doing some of this research and educating our group on these different issues. We're also looking for someone to chair the Education and Research Committee and help to recruit people to do this work. So if anybody is interested in that, please let us know. Linda, do you want to share any more of what you guys have already learned?
Well, a lot of it's just been observation so far. One is the boat ramp. You know, I know that we talk about washing the boats. That's not my major concern. My major concern is the stormwater at the boat ramp. I don't remember. I meant to go down there when I was on the Cape today. I didn't. I don't remember seeing any type of drainage there. So I do believe that all water flows to the lake. And that's a parking area.
Yep, such a good point too, because again, this is what's funny. The executive committee, we have had a lot of talk about when we're talking about organization and how much overlap there is in all of these committees. And just as an example, the boat ramp, Meredith's talking about alliances, Sue's talking about influence advocacy. It's state owned. So, and you know,
I understand that, yeah.
from the Lake Management Committee that Barbara is on, and being state owned, you know, we really, everybody's saying, well, then what can the town do about it? Well, nothing. Now you've got to go to the state reps and try to get them to address the issues. I guess the boat ramp is in dire straits and needs repair. So again, all that research that people are doing so that we can learn, like, who should we advocate? What should we be advocating for? So,
You know, I don't mind being like, and I think Karen will help me. Like, I think that's one big thing. All those things, stormwater, sewering, pollutants, well, the property survey maybe not so much, but that can be one group that I can share with Karen, I think. Yeah, because it's sort of all sort of kind of goes together.
awesome. Thank you.
That, I mean, I don't know how you don't talk about stormwater and sewering and, you know, this whole thing on invasives. I can get some speakers on invasives. I just want you to know that I'm in the process of eradicating invasives on my property. It's like a 4-year process. And it's in conjunction with the Conservation Commission, and they have to keep coming in and treating because you can't just treat once and plant, because then the invasives come back. It's a huge, I never envisioned it being as comprehensive and long term as it is. But if you see any invasives, just get rid of them on your property. Yes, but in order to plant, so I can bring in I can bring in a few speakers for that, because
Awesome.
this is my favorite for that to talk about.
So appreciate it.
I think
I
one
will
of the
also offer, sorry, we have a list at the ready of native species that I'm sure we can pass along, because Michael
Yes.
planted like 300, not different. I forget how many, but like 300 total on our top of where the slope starts. So the list of the species that were approved by the Conservation Committee, I'd be happy to pass along. And
They actually have that on their website.
he was very
So I think,
specific about groupings.
I think one of the things that we're trying to put together for the start of the season is kind of a toolkit for residents, because for people to actually get rid of invasives or to plant natives or to do all of these things, it's overwhelming to just go to all these websites. So that I envision this research group as being the color of information.
Sure.
And then Jonathan's group actually making it slick and pretty. But
Perfect.
even like all of your experience, Linda, in going to the town and getting, when do you need a permit to do something and when don't you need a permit to do something? Can you take out an invasive, or do you have to tell them you're taking out an invasive? I don't know, but I think that a lot of people don't do things because getting off the dime is overwhelming and they don't know where to start. So that's a goal, is to kind of have a toolkit that we could probably put on our website for people to use as a resource. And I know they're all over the place, but you still have to walk into town hall and say, can I do this? Or it would just be good if they had some steps with all these different things.
I have a quick question. Has anyone seen the outfall plan that they discussed at the meeting? Did they show? I didn't see the outfall plan. Has anyone ever seen where the outfalls are in Mashpee?
But for the sewering?
No, currently there are outfalls for drainage.
The DPW just that meeting?
Yeah.
I did not see it. I could barely hear that meeting.
Well, not even. Yeah. Okay, great. I just am wondering if anyone has seen that plan. I want to look at that plan. So, okay.
Linda, it probably is, wouldn't it be under Mashpee Town Government? I mean, there's a map for almost everything that's in the town, right?
I haven't seen it, but I'll take another look. If not, I'll just ask DPW when I'm down there again.
Okay, because I have a sewer meeting tomorrow, so
Oh.
to ask the question again, why don't you write it in the chat and ask the question again, and I will see what I can do from that end as well.
Thank you. I will do that.
Great. Okay, finance. Is it finance next?
Yes.
Finance.
Yes, hi,
Carla.
for those of you that I have not met, I am Carla Mullen and I live on the Wakeby side of the pond. I work in accounting and financial reporting and have volunteered to keep track of all of our income and expenses in QuickBooks. I'm happy to report that this week we received a $5,000 donation. With that being said, that gives us a little over $6,000 in our bank account, which obviously will be used to pay for a lot of the volunteered expenses of things like Zoom and Constant Contact and recurring expenses as our PO box. But obviously there is some money left that now as a group, we can decide how can it best be used to either educate people or get people on board to help us, or even to pump out your septic system. Like, I don't know, but it's a start, and we're thrilled to have that. All of the expenses in the past, based on what Karen has up there, we've all paid as a group, people have put forth. So our marketing expense has covered the door knockers, the lawn signs, flyers before the town meeting, those kinds of things. There were permits for the event at the event this summer. Our technology expense is Zoom and Constant Contact. And those will be reoccurring, I imagine. And as we grow, they're probably going to be more expenses and more things we'd like to do. So I don't know how, Sue, this Giving Tuesday, I don't know how, if there's a plan on how to reach out to
Well,
people.
I think we're gonna go to Facebook. I mean, people are looking at our Facebook, we think. We're not sure if everybody is getting their emails from Constant Contact. We're having a battle with that right now, but I'd like to do a little plug for Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, now that we have our ability to direct them to the website, or they can send a check to the PO box. As most of you know that are here, whenever you sign up for one of these payment things, you're going to have to pay the credit card fee. So we're currently taking a between 2 and 3% hit on all of our donations, because that's what the credit card company charges Blue Snap, who's running our payments. So, and they're only charging us 0.5%. So we still are, I'll take the money. I mean, at this point, I'd rather make it convenient for people to give us a donation rather than writing a check, putting it in an envelope, stamp, mailing it. But anyhow, we can maybe
someday, who knows, if we become large enough to become a 501c3 where the deductions are tax deductible, at that point, we, a lot of places I have donated to, I pay the extra $10 or whatever it is,
Right.
fee, so they
Right.
get the full donation. But I agree, at this point, I'm just happy to take whatever.
what we're getting.
what
And
we're getting.
and we've got we're going to have to put our lawn signs. We were creative and Jonathan worked really hard on those lawn signs because we kept them all. We have all 50 of them back, and we can just print out new tops that say vote yes on an article, whatever it's going to be for the meeting in May for the sewering. So we're trying to be thrifty, but those were, I think, very effective, and a lot of people noticed them. So, but we do have a cushion now, which is nice, and I think we're gonna turn over some of the expenses that I've had on my credit card recurring. We're gonna put that on our debit card for our account.
Yes,
Those
yes, for sure.
monthly charges, which will be great.
Yeah. And that's all I have at this point.
Well, good. Well, we're
Susan, this is Barbara.
Yes.
I just wanted to make one comment on the signs that you're putting up for people. I think we need to put town meeting on it. I couldn't tell you how many people asked me, well, where you're supposed to vote on this.
Oh.
So just, there are people out there that maybe would show up if we've just put town meeting date, with the date.
Okay.
Thank you. The reality is that the majority of people don't know when town meeting is, and they don't go.
Right.
Sorry,
Very
it's a hard dose of reality, but I live it.
I
I
know.
live it. All right, well, that's great. That's great feedback. So we can fix that for next time. We are zooming. Where are we? We're at the end?
Yep.
Did we get to the end? Oh, we're going to talk about our next meeting, and I wanted to get feedback since you're all here, which is, we're grateful for that. But do you think that we should be focusing on a better time of day, or is a 7 o'clock not? What do y'all think? We're trying to do it monthly with regularity. But today it was suggested that we might do something earlier.
Oh. 7's fine.
7's fine.
7's good.
Okay. And let me just look at the little chat here.
Just pulled it open, Susan.
Okay.
Sue, do you want to mention the summer kickoff event that you're envisioning?
Oh, I did have a few other events, our little ad hoc committees. I didn't talk about those. Yeah, we were thinking, along the lines of pulling our little toolkit together and just seeking volunteers to help with the pond study this year, that we might try to pull off a kickoff event the beginning of the summer for the lake residents. I think we maybe try to keep it to, I don't know, lake residents or more, but really just trying to get people to come together again and have a list of things that they can do. A lot of the things that we are going to be putting forth are going to take years, but in the meantime, if we're very specific and clear on things they can do with a toolkit at their own properties, I think it would go a long way. So we don't know where, but last time we were so working so fast, we couldn't get a food truck. We couldn't have a liquor license if people wanted to have a beer or something, but we were trying to see if we could have a little kickoff party for the lake. And then Linda, you go ahead.
I had a beer. Joe Slotnick brought some over.
Oh, he did. That's right. He brought beer. He did. He walked right in with a cooler of beer. I forgot about that.
Susan, if you do it early enough in the season, you might be able to do it on public beach because they're not open. So if you talk to the town, we might be able to do something on the beach. Just to be organized around getting pre-clearance and asking if we can have alcohol.
Right.
Things of that
Well,
nature.
we had to go at it a lot earlier and advertise it again. And it would be before the buoys were up, Dave. Remember, we tried to do it when they were going to come down and they didn't come down.
Right.
But if we did it on the early side.
Yeah, because I don't think they put the buoys up until Memorial Day. Or even
No,
after.
after Memorial Day.
After Memorial
No,
Day.
they don't put them up until
After
mid to
Memorial
late
Day.
June.
Mid to
Yeah,
late
so that gives
June.
us plenty of time.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Yes.
Wonder if you might be able to ask the camp if they would allow you to use their property. They don't open until after school starts.
That's an
Oh.
idea.
That's an idea too. They were very happy to let us be there for the splash event. So that's a great idea, Paul. Thanks. I
And
love
Susan,
it.
when are you guys thinking of supplying this toolkit for everybody? So homeowners on the lake can understand how they can be more responsible in preserving
I'd like
the
to
lake.
have it ready. I'd like to have it ready for the spring or the kickoff for summer. It can be an ever-growing toolkit, but it needs to be something.
So when you say toolkit, do you mean like information, like printed
Well,
information,
information and then even
resources?
printed information and resources, but Meredith and I went to a rain garden seminar, and there's a bunch of people that can do rain gardens for you. It'd be nice to have the list of people you could consult with, or and Dave Sampson, you mentioned a guy who does great driveway drainage resolution. I'd like to gather resources and also to have that things you need to know, like If you're going to do a rain garden within 100 feet of the inland bank, you're going to need conservation. So all of these things that we just don't know, but if we have it together for people to access and they can look at what's involved, they may be inclined to actually do it rather than saying, oh, this is too big. I don't know who I'd call or where I'd go. And maybe we use our speaker series, Zoom, or however we do it, that we also want to kick off. We have all sorts of things we want to do to really talk about rain gardens and rain barrels and driveway diverters and drains you can put in halfway down your driveway and those kinds of things. So
dry wells for your gutters.
Dry wells for your gutters.
Yep.
And
as it pertains to conservation, are we doing some bridge building with conservation around being more in compliance with what they want to see, but having to be more of a partnership situation as opposed to, conservation can be hard to work with. So do we have a liaison that's working with conservation around making our properties more in compliance with what they want to see without it being, sort of a punitive or friction relationship? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you never want conservation on your property.
Right. I mean, that's my thought, but I mean, if you're gonna need to get approval for things.
I know nobody wants to do it, but I think it'd be good to know, when do you need to have them involved and when do you not? What can you do with them or without? Can you plant, if you're gonna plant a native species, do you need a permission? I don't know I honestly don't know the answer.
You can always plant, you can't always remove. You can always plant. You can, and if you're in the buffer, on the vegetated bank, it should be a native that you're planting. But if you're throwing a rhodie, I mean, not all rhodies are natives. If you throw in the wrong rhodie or something, it's not the end of the world. So there are some things, but you can't ever count on a citizen to say you need a permit or you don't need a permit. That should always be it's such an important thing. It always should be something. If it's something simple like plant or this or that, but if you don't know what you're doing, you have to go to Concom.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also dealing with two different jurisdictions.
Correct, different bylaws.
Right. So I think maybe some general guidance, but I think as Linda says, we got to stay away from giving kind of specific advice.
But this is who you would go to in town hall to ask. A lot of people just don't want to walk into town hall. They don't know where to go. Honestly, they don't.
Okay, I can accept that. Yeah, we can help with that.
Well, one of the suggestions I have is that maybe we can come up with a frequently asked questions that people have about conservation, and someone can be a liaison with the conservation committee and go to them to speak for the group rather than think about a way of pulling them onto our properties, which we said we don't want to do that. But if we do, we have a list of questions that people have generated and that could be taken to the conservation committee. I mean, I'd be glad to help spearhead that and to meet with them.
I'm sure Drew would attend one of these meetings and talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would.
I can't imagine him saying no, because I think that would be an important thing. And maybe when we get more people into the meeting, when spring starts, I think that through the holidays, we're not going to get a lot of people on these meetings, but once spring starts rolling around, and bringing Drew in would be a big thing. Imagine Drew's, people would love to hear Drew speak.
Who is this person?
Drew McManus, he's the conservation agent for the town of Mashpee.
Okay.
I forget who was at one of these meetings before where they had invited Drew to come speak and they said it was just phenomenal. Barbara, do you remember? Wasn't your group, was it? I don't know. I can't remember.
Drew is actually very easy to work with. Drew's a decent conservation agent. I can honestly say he's very good. I may not always like what he says to me, but he's fair. And after like Henri and all that, there were just so many properties, including mine, that were devastated by those drenching downpours and rains, and he was excellent to work with, with some of the issues that we had. And he gave good advice and good suggestions. I think that if we had him speak, it would be fabulous.
Sounds good.
And I would ask him. I don't mind asking him. I mean, at all. If we pick a date, I said I think springtime, but would be better. But I'm sure he.
Well, maybe we could do a think spring speaker series of thinking about what to plant, and maybe have some native plant specialists on, and have Drew come too. That might be really good. Okay.
The APCC has a lot of information about native plants. If you go to their website, I don't know if people have seen that or not.
They do.
Suggest vendors and things like that.
And their botanist, or their head of native plants, Kristen, was wonderful. I went to visit and she spent like 2 hours giving me a tour of their native plants, and she could probably be a great speaker for us as well.
What's her name, Meredith?
Her first name is Kristen, and I'll look up her last name and get it to you, Karen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we are thinking about having our next meeting on December 15th, since it is a holiday month. We thought we would move away from the fourth Wednesday, which would be right around Christmas. So we tossed around the 15th, which will be 2 days after Mashpee's next big meeting on water. Sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll do it at 7 o'clock.
Ask the word.
All
That's
right.
right.
Tell your neighbors.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Have a
all.
good week.
Thank you.
Care.
See ya.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Right.
Hit the leave button. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.